talking about stuff. Okay, that was obviously very fake, but it leads into what I'm going to talk about today. Visualization. Have you had a moment where you've visualized something really good coming up, where you thought about, oh, that's going to be great, that's going to feel great, oh, I can't wait for that, and you can really visualize it in your mind? Alternatively, have you had something you're really dreading that you're thinking, oh God, I'm not looking forward to that, that's going to be horrible, that's going to feel like this? Well, you can use visualization to your advantage, and that's what I'm going to be discussing, the benefits of visualization and some practices you can do with visualization today. First of all, I'm going to talk about a study that was conducted around the area of visualization on some basketballers in the University of Chicago. So, a couple of the groups were given 30 days practice where they'd have to practice for an hour. Now there are 3 groups. The first group had to practice throwing the ball into the hoop for an hour, just practicing the physical skills. The second group were told not to practice anything any of the days at all. And then the third group, they were told to visualise themselves throwing the basketball into the hoop every day. Not actually throwing it, visualising it. What did they find from the study? So they found from the study that over the 30 days, the group that didn't practice, so the second group I mentioned, no improvement, which hopefully doesn't shock many of you. The first group, there was a 24% improvement in being able to throw the ball into the hoop. And the third group, the group who didn't actually physically throw the ball into the hoop, who weren't practicing that action day after day, the ones who were visualising, there was a 23% increase. So very much a similar kind of improvement to the group that were physically throwing it in. Now, what that can demonstrate is that actually, although there was a 1% better rate for the ones who have thrown the ball into the basket, it was very similar to visualisation. So imagine if physical practice and visualisation were put together. And that's what a lot of the top athletes do these days. That's how they get to the top of their performance. They not only psych themselves up mentally and practice physically what they're trying to do, but visualisation's used an awful lot these days. Now, to use an example from my own personal experience, as I try to when I tell you guys these stories. So I was going through a lot of job interviews a couple of years ago, trying to get jobs, but I keep missing out. In fact, people started to ask me, Johnny, is your job to actually go to job interviews to get jobs? And I basically said, yeah, it's just easier, because I was trying to get a permanent job. But I got into a habit of anticipating the kind of questions they might ask me. Now, when you go into a job interview, this isn't a job interview video on tips, by the way. This is on visualization, but when you go into job interviews, you shouldn't anticipate the questions because they could ask you anything, but you understand a sort of vaguely what kind of areas they're going to ask you for. Anyway, back to visualization. I'd anticipate roughly what the questions are and practice speaking to people, and that's a kind of good practice in itself. Like the athletes and their physical practice, in these you practice yourself talking through what you would say to an interviewer. But anyway, I got to a point where I started to visualise what I thought the interview would look like, how I perceived them dressing, how I perceived them asking the questions, which is obviously impossible. But I started to visualise myself, how I'd walk in, how I'd present myself. And I found that really helped. And a lot of the feedback I was getting at the time was, you perhaps don't have the relevant experience, which is actually probably quite a good thing, because perhaps that job wasn't right for me, and actually it led me on to a far better job, which I do now, which I really love. But I could visualise myself going in, and I kept getting a lot of good feedback saying, you appeared really confident, really presentable, it's just the experience that let you down. So I found by using that and visualising myself, that really helped me. Now I'm going to go into the different types of visualisation you can do in a minute, but one thing I do is try and visualise my day at the start of the day, get an idea of how I think it's going to map out. Not necessarily everything, but visualising my day really helps me to understand what I want to achieve and how I want to go about each and every one of my days. Okay, so the different types of visualisation. Leading on from my previous comments around me visualising my day, I'll start with that one. So at the beginning of your day or even the night before, it can be quite good practice to visualise how you see your next day mapping out. What are the main things you want to achieve? How do you want it to look like? Now, I'm not saying sit down and visualise yourself going through the whole entire day like I get out of bed, I walk into a door. I don't walk into doors, by the way, that's just an exaggeration. I go and get some food from the kitchen, I go walk to the train, I get on the train door closes, I walk to the office, I might pop to Sainsbury's on the way and buy a bottle. No, we're not talking about every single detail here. At the start of my day, I'll visualise things like writing down that 500 words on paper or filming that video, and then at lunchtime going to the gym, getting an idea of my mind what that big task is, or perhaps at work in the morning, what's that big accomplishment I want to do, what's that big task I've been dying to get done. Visualising how I'm going to get it done. Am I going to go somewhere quiet and focus? Am I going to switch off emails? And then in the evening, what am I going to try and focus on in the evening? How do I want it to look like? How am I going to stop distractions? So I'm going to turn on airplane mode so I don't look at social media or anything like that. So really, visualising your day out really helps you to understand what you want out of a day and how you want it to look. Another type of visualisation I sometimes do is visualising my goals. What the big goals are, or what maybe some short-term goals are. Really visualising myself writing books for a living and them selling, and actually what I'm visualising for me and what I want to get out of it is feeling the fulfilment that it's getting to people. The books are giving good messages to people and people are appreciating my creativity and what I'm trying to deliver. So really visualising what that is. Or perhaps myself coaching people every day and really helping them understand what they want and just visualising those conversations day to day. Or it might be a shorter term goal, so it might be for the end of the week I want to set up this and this. So really visualising what that would look like. So visualising your goal can really help you to understand where you want to go or why you want to go in that direction. And the final visualisation I want to touch on is visualising specific events or specific challenges. So if you've got something coming up, let's use an example of a big speech. So you've got to deliver a big speech to the rest of your company at work and you're dreading it. You might have had a bit of practice speaking or maybe not, and you're really nervous about it. By visualising that big event, you can help yourself understand you're capable of overcoming it. So perhaps thinking about something in the past and that being a big challenge and you overcoming that. Visualising yourself through a big challenge or a big event can really help put things in perspective for you, that actually you are capable of overcoming it. And when you approach the actual event, you're still going to feel fear, I'm afraid. Big challenges, you are never ever not going to face or feel fear. You just got to go through and do the challenge and then you become confident or happier. But by visualising yourself doing it, you're going to feel a bit more comfortable and reinforce that you can get through the challenge. Okay, now on to the benefits of visualisation. So just a few. The first one, as I've touched on a little bit already, when you're fearful of a situation or a challenge, you're inevitably going to dread it. But by visualising yourself, seeing it and playing yourself through it, you can become more prepared for it and get that belief that you can get through it. In fact, at the moment, as I've said that, I'm just thinking of a couple more things that I'm fearing or dreading, and actually how I can use visualization to help me overcome them. The second benefit is clarity. When you visualize your goals, whether that's short term, medium term, or long goal, sensing how it feels, sensing how it looks, it can really help you understand whether that's something you want or whether you don't want so much. And if you visualize something and it doesn't feel quite right, and it doesn't bring you joy, doesn't bring loads of light to you, perhaps it's not the right thing. And perhaps you can use a bit of time to actually visualize and understand, maybe meditate a bit on what you do really want. And the final benefit I'm going to touch on, but there's loads more, is positive thinking. When you visualize something and see yourself getting through a challenge, see yourself going through your day or achieving your goals, I keep shutting my eyes there, I don't know why, probably just trying to naturally reinforce the message. You think of lots of positive thoughts. You think of how you can overcome something. You think about the good that's to come. Now, you should always stay present, but by visualising where you want to get to, that's going to create a lot of positivity in you. So that's a final benefit for today on visualisation, that it creates more positive thinking. Okay, so for today's challenge and question, I want you to put even just 5 minutes a day visualising. Just put 5 minutes. I mean, it could be in the morning, could be midday, could be in the evening, but there's always time for the most important things, and visualisation can be a real benefit to you. And then I want to think of an area of your life that you want to develop in, whether that's a forthcoming challenge or it's a big goal you're trying to achieve, and really visualise yourself getting through that. Visualise yourself overcoming the barriers there and feel how great it is to get there, and put some consistent practice into visualising that. So to sum up today's video on visualisation, we've talked about the different types of visualisation. First of all, there's visualising your day ahead, how you want that to map out. There's visualising a specific challenge that you want to overcome, or an event. And then there's visualising your goals, whether that's short, medium or long term. Visualising yourself overcoming the challenges and achieving that goal, and how great that feels, how great that looks. The benefits of visualisation include being able to tell whether that's what you really want in your goals. So when you're visualising your goals, is that something that fills you with joy when you're visualising it? Visualisation also enables you to think more positively, and visualisation helps you overcome fear. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's video and you'll go away and visualise. Sorry, again, that's a poor bit of acting. As usual, my sources are available for more information on my stuff. So if you want to go onto my website, it's johnnypardo.com, or you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and now Spotify, as well as Amazon. Just type in Johnny Pardo into any of them. See you later.